you calling from?
Hey, Sam, this is Dawson from Minneapolis.
Dawson from Minneapolis. Welcome to the program.
Thanks. I've been listening since the 2016 presidential primary, but I'm a first-time caller.
How did you start listening, Dawson?
To be honest, it's kind of funny. I was looking for a clip of Trump, and I stumbled upon an MR video. And for like a split second, I was like annoyed that there was commentary. Like I just wanted to watch the video.
Right.
But the more I listened, the more I kind of became a fan of the show.
I've found that is exactly my experience in my personal life too.
That's funny. So yeah, I have a question about organizing in sort of this era with what's going on in North Carolina and stuff. But since you mentioned Laura Loomer and Ilhan Omar, I wanted to just clarify for listeners that like Ilhan Omar, her base, her constituency is not conservative Muslims. It's actually largely young progressives, like people that I went to college with are all her like highest level campaign staffers and stuff. And actually there's a little bit of resentment from the conservative Muslim community because one of the first things Ilhan did was come out as like a hijabi refugee woman who very much supported the LGBT community, which was appealing to me because, like, you know, I'm a straight person, but ethnically I identify as gay. So I thought that was a good thing that she did. But yeah. So my
what do you mean? Wait a
is
second. What does that mean? Ethnically, you identify as gay?
It was a joke. I was referring back to that. You covered this on your show.
Oh, right. Yeah, with
anyway.
Ben Shapiro. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was hoping that one wouldn't drop like a lead balloon, but whatever. Anyway, so my question is basically, so it seems to me that like the scam that kind of they did in North Carolina, all of the things it occurs to me as like an organizer that you could do to prevent that type of fraud would impact organizers' ability to like legitimately use the absentee balloting process to basically go to folks, get them to sign up to vote absentee, and then assist them through the process, especially if those voters are in a community that, you know, either English is a second language or like, you know, like in organizing in the Somali diaspora here, like it's really imperative to do that absentee balloting process. And when you do that, the only thing that's stopping you once you have the information contained on like an absentee ballot application and using that to vote for them is like your own moral, you know, code that says that you won't do that. So I guess my question for you guys would be, what do you propose as like a policy solution to this type of election fraud that like wouldn't disenfranchise voters and organizers' ability to get out the vote?
You mean in terms of like absentee ballots?
Yeah, or in general, just like, you know, a lot of the work that we do as organizers is to legitimately get people to either get them to the polls or to fill out absentee ballots. And a lot of the dirty tricks is just kind of up to what the organizer wants to do or not do, or wants, you know, the risks that an organizer wants to take.
I see what you're saying. So in terms of picking up the ballot at the absentee at the home and then transporting it, is that where the The process goes like this. You go and you identify a supporter, you have them fill out an absentee ballot, and then essentially submit it for them, knowing that then they'll get the ballot in the mail. And then you go back and make sure that they filled out their ballot, and if they want, you can send it for them, or they just say that they'll basically send it themselves. But the information that you collect during that process is enough information to go and, like, let's say you change the address you want the ballot to be sent to, like, you know, some campaign office, and then you could, with that information, if you wanted to, get that ballot, fill it out for them, and submit it. And it strikes me as like that's basically what they did in North Carolina. I mean, I can tell you that I don't know how it's done in North Carolina. I can tell you in New York that I often vote by absentee ballot because I'm out of county where I'm registered. And the electoral commissioners, I don't think they would send multiple ballots to one location. I just don't think that would happen. My experience has been like
there's been times where they've said, like, this signature doesn't look like the one that we have on file. Now, it's a rural situation there, and so they maybe, have the resources or the time to be a little bit more specific. But I definitely think that there is obviously some problems with absentee ballots, the way that they're done, and securing those.
Right.
But I don't know if there is a blanket fix for this, because there's no consistency in the way that any of these states do it. I mean, that's part of the problem,
right.
frankly, is here's how I would start. Like, I don't know if I know the answer to your specific question. I am aware that there are, in certain circumstances, questions as to like a secure chain of control, or whatever you call it, for the ballot. But here's where you would start. You need to make voting a federal right. And then once that happens, the federal government can normalize the process across all the states and come up with a solution for the problems you're talking about that will be whose implementation can be judged according to a set of actual standards across the country. So I don't have the specific solution, but I know the process that has to happen, and I know the way that process needs to start, and that is, we need a federal right to vote, and we don't have one. And the gutting of the Voting Rights Act goes in the complete opposite direction that we need to be headed to. So
I completely agree. And I guess I just have one more comment on that, which is, like, prior to this story breaking, the kind of narrative has been like, okay, on the left, people are concerned about voter disenfranchisement, and on the right, people are concerned about voter fraud. And so if you're like somebody who's like especially dedicated to being fair-minded, you could look at that and see it as kind of like, two sides of a coin. But now with this North Carolina situation, that whole theory has been dismantled, because, the right has shown basically a willingness to commit election fraud in order to, like, achieve their own ends.
Of course.
So,
but look, I've done many interviews over the years about voter ID, and I would say in 20% of them at least, there has been a comment from that person like, if you're going to, the thing that really needs to be secured is absentee ballots. And because there was a certain amount of integrity in discussing the issue. The Republican Party, this whole voter ID thing is a new phenomena. It is 15 to 20 years old, and it is a response to a concern on their part that they are going to lose based on demographics. And look, they're right. I don't know if it's because of demographics, but if you look at like the actual vote tallies of the past 20 years, midterm, on-year elections, there is a very clear trend that Republicans are losing in terms of how people vote. I mean, it's just the bottom line. And so you get all of these things to mitigate that. Gerrymandering, voter suppression, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this has been a long-held tenet of the Republican Party. Paul Weyrich, I think it was, right? Was it Paul Weyrich or the other guy? I get him confused. Said specifically, Republicans do better when less people vote.
Yeah.
Appreciate the call, Dustin.
Yeah, Paul Weyrich. I don't want everybody to vote.
Was it Paul Weyrich? Was he the direct mail king?
Have what I call the goo-goo syndrome. Good government. They want everybody to vote. I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
There you have it.
Oh, he co-founded the Heritage Foundation, Moral Majority, Free Congress Foundation, American Legislative Exchange Council, and continues to host weekly. Wow.
Yep. He's done some good work.
He's like the David Dayen of fascists.
There you go. He just used that now for everything.